Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, we're going to be diving into the secret life of Hosea Matthews that you probably don't know about. So Hosea, in my opinion, is one of the more underrated characters in Red Dead Redemption 2, and even though he's a big part of the storyline, a lot of the focus obviously goes to Arthur, John, Dutch, and some of the more memorable antagonists in the game that you're obviously trying to fight. However, Hosea is truly amazing. I would say he's definitely in my top like 2 or 3 characters in the game. So according to the in-game strategy guide, Hosea Matthews is a master con artist, gentleman, and thief. And Hosea has been Dutch's closest friend and right-hand man for over 20 years. They first met when they tried to rob each other by a fire on the road to Chicago. Both young grifters with similarly subversive ideals. They became fast friends and partners in crime, running tricks together, ripping off people they thought deserved it the most. Intelligent and quick-witted, Hosea can talk his way into or out of just about anything. He is now beginning to feel his age just a little bit. So that's kind of interesting, and that's something you might not have known about, is the way that Dutch and Hosea met is they were both trying to rob each other. And obviously when you have the intelligence of someone like Hosea and Dutch, it's going to be a little bit awkward when those two guys try and rob each other because they're both going to try and outsmart one another. So I thought that that was kind of funny right there, and that gives us some nice background on Hosea. Now we need to talk about his life before the gang. And unfortunately, we don't know a lot, other that he was, it quotes, raised in the mountains. That's his phrase. And he also mentioned that his father lived a life of sin and debauchery that would make an emperor blush until he died at the age of 75. However, he states he did love his father despite only seeing him 3 times in his life. Wow, that is crazy. So Hosea's father was not a very good person. He lived a very long time. Like, if you made it to 75 in the 1800s, I'd say that has to be the equivalent of like living to 100 today. I mean, back in those days, they did not have modern technology. They didn't have medicine. They didn't have, things that we know now that keep us alive longer. And he only saw him 3 times in his entire life. That is just crazy to me. Now, at some point in the past, Hosea did meet and fall in love with a woman named Bessie, whom he eventually temporarily left the gang for. However, we found out that she died sometime prior to 1899, and Hosea eventually did end up returning to the gang, as you know. Now, if you actually explore around the camp, you can actually see a photo of Hosea and Bessie. And this is what it looks like right here. You can see Hosea and Bessie photographed. They look to be in nice clothing, sitting for a portrait. And on the back, you can see that it is dated Hosea and Bessie Matthews, September 1883. So we know that she was at least alive by 1883. In fact, this almost looks like it might be like their wedding photo or something along those lines. I'm not too sure, but that right there is Bessie and Hosea. That is his former wife. Now, at one of the in-game campfires, Hosea specifically says that he met Dutch sometime in the mid-1870s when both men tried to rob each other, and after that event, the two became friends. Well, there's actually a newspaper scrap in Hosea's living quarters in Shady Belle that give us a good idea of the type of stuff they ultimately did. So you guys can see here, there is a New England Examiner scrap from March 9th, 1877. And it says, criminals escape from jail. 2 criminals escaped from prison in Kettering, Ohio in broad daylight yesterday. Dutch Vanderlyn and Hosea Matthews were arrested after a string of confidence tricks in the town over the past few weeks. The men, who had been posing as international merchants, duped 12 local men and women out of approximately $300 of shares in a fictitious Portuguese shipping company. It is not yet known how they escaped. Sheriff Carmichael, who is found bound and naked in their jail cell, is refusing to comment other than that he is extremely embarrassed. The 2 men are still at large, and anybody with information to their whereabouts is urged to contact the authorities immediately. So that is hysterical, and that takes place about 12 years before our game starts, 11 or 12 years. So Hosea and Dutch were scamming people out of money. They got thrown in jail. They escaped jail, and they left the sheriff naked and bound. Like, that is so funny right there. I love the fact that Hosea would do something that brazen. I just think that's really cool. And again, it gives us some more background on his life and what he was doing before we see him in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, if it wasn't obvious enough by his age, Hosea is both the most senior member of Dutch's gang and also his oldest friend. He's intelligent and level-headed, and he regularly advises Dutch and is valued for his wisdom. Something else you might not have known about Hosea is apparently he is a big fan of crime novels, particularly the Aldous Filson mystery series. Now, Arthur can actually find one of these books, The Case of the Deceitful German, around his tent or sleeping area, and if Arthur picks it up, it'll trigger a special request in which Arthur can find his old friend another book by the same Arthur. And as a gesture of gratitude, Hosea will leave some predator bait by Arthur's quarters, who we know Hosea is an expert fisherman and hunter. So pretty cool stuff right there. Again, we get some more background on what Hosea is actually interested in. Now, as I'm sure you guys know, if you've made it past chapter 4, Hosea actually dies during the robbery of the Lemoyne National Bank. He's shot by Agent Milton when the robbery goes wrong. However, it turns out that Hosea might not have had much longer to live either. If you listen to this camp conversation that he has, Hosea confirms that he's sick.
Mind if I sit? Listen, I know I ain't well, but don't pity me. Envy me. I've done all a man could want. My grandfather farmed turnips in some bog in Lincolnshire. In Lincolnshire, which I'm told is in England, famous for turnips. I've never had to eat a turnip in my life. I'm a product of this country. False, true, bad, a little good, tough, old. Don't you worry about me. I'm okay.
So we don't know what illness Hosea has. I do not believe it is the same as Arthur with the tuberculosis. I just feel like Hosea is older and he might have contracted some sort of disease or illness that was popular in the 1800s. So who knows? And it kind of confirms that even if Hosea didn't get shot by Agent Milton, which of course was tragic, there's a good chance that he would have died pretty soon after that anyways. Now, he wasn't having like fits of coughing like we see Arthur have towards the end of the game, but that is a sign that Hosea's life might have been cut short a little bit sooner than everyone thought. In fact, Hosea also confirms this himself in another campfire conversation when he even questions how long he has left.
Wonder how many more evenings like this I'll have. Anyone know? Come on, don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. I'm not going to see much more in another couple of years. Maybe 5. My daddy lived until he was 75. A life of sin and debauchery that would make an emperor blush. He was a bigamist 3 times over. Reckoned he had 100 children. Never worked an honest day in his life. I only saw him 3 months in my entire life, and by God, did I love that man. Never met a finer. Anyway.
So it certainly seems as if Hosea was realistic about his situation and knew that he didn't have much longer to live on this earth. Now, what's also kind of interesting, as you know, Hosea was buried right next to Lenny. Now, this might have been because they were killed in the same mission. However, I think it's because of a different reason. Hosea acted as almost a father figure to Lenny. And Hosea actually made a request that he wanted to be buried with friends and family. So he almost foreshadowed his death and his burial because the gang actually broke him out of the Saint Denis morgue and they buried him right next to Lenny, who I'd say he thought of as a son. But anyways, that right there is the secret life of Hosea Matthews that you might not have known about in Red Dead Redemption 2. I'd love to know what you guys think about Hosea in the comments down below. Did you like him as a character? Did you dislike him as a character? Once again, let me know your thoughts, opinions, and more in the comments down below. If you did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way, guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.